I used to think betrayal would feel like a slap, sudden, loud, impossible to ignore. Turns out it's more like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice until you're stranded in the middle of nowhere, wondering how long you've been driving on empty. Life was, at one point, easy. Or at least, I thought it was. I had a wife, a house, a job that wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and kept us comfortable. Her name was Lauren. She was sharp-tongued and never exactly warm, but I used to tell myself that was just her sense of humor. The sarcasm, the sass, the spice. You know how we do? We call it fiery when we're in love, toxic when we're not. We met in college. She had this wild streak, black nail polish, opinions louder than the lecture hall, eyes that looked through you like they were reading your worst secrets. I fell for her in record time. She said I made her feel calm. I guess that should have been a red flag, huh? When someone sees you as their tranquilizer, it means they're used to chaos. The first 5 years were good. Actually good. Sunday morning pancakes. Late-night car rides just to get milkshakes. The kind of quiet moments people post about with the caption, "This is all I need." I thought I had found my person. I thought I knew her. She used to hold my hand during horror movies, even though she'd seen them already. She'd mess with the thermostat just to start a fake fight and laugh about it 5 minutes later. She called me her steady one. Said I was the only constant in her ever-changing world. Back then, I believed her. Now, I replay those moments and wonder how much of it was real and how much was just good acting. There was no single moment when things went bad. No fireworks. Just a quiet erosion. Fewer smiles. Less eye contact. She stopped sitting next to me on the couch. I blamed work stress. She blamed hormones. We both blamed the world, but never each other. And that was the start of the end, when we stopped blaming each other. I didn't realize it at the time, but we weren't growing apart. She was just slowly walking away, and I was standing still. I used to come home to music playing and her dancing barefoot in the kitchen. Then I started coming home to locked doors and excuses. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is just the part of the story where everything still looked fine from the outside. The calm before the collapse. And the thing about calm? It makes the storm hit harder. It started with a password. That's how small it was. One day, Lauren changed the passcode on her phone. No big announcement. No explanation. Just a quick glance down at her screen, a few taps, and then the quiet click of the screen locking. I noticed, of course, but I didn't say anything. Not at first. We all want to believe the best in the people we love. So I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she had started using her phone for work stuff. Maybe it was one of those updates that made you reset everything. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then she started taking her phone with her everywhere. Bathroom? Phone. Shower? Phone. Folding laundry? Phone buried under the pile like a hidden grenade. She stopped laughing at the shows we used to love, stopped reaching for my hand during the quiet parts. Her smile started showing up less. But her screen time? That was off the charts. I remember one night we were in bed, and I rolled over to kiss her goodnight. She flinched, pulled away like I was a stranger. And she didn't even realize she did it. Just kept scrolling, blue light washing over her face like I was furniture. Like I wasn't her husband, just a fixture in the house she happened to live in. That's when I started to wonder. Not panic. Just wonder. Because something about her felt different. Not just distant, rehearsed. Like she was acting her way through the day, and I was just some guy she had to keep around to sell the role. The weirdest part? She started being nicer. Overly nice. Complimenting me for no reason. Laughing at jokes she normally wouldn't. She even made dinner 3 nights in a row, and I'm talking full meals, like she was trying out for a cooking show. But the affection was hollow. Like a cardboard cutout of love. It stood there and looked like the real thing. But if you leaned on it, it crumpled. There was one night I caught her staring at herself in the mirror, touching her neck, adjusting her hair in a way I hadn't seen in years. She looked smug. Like she was planning something. That was the moment I felt it, not just in my head, but in my gut. This wasn't distance. This wasn't a phase. This was a performance. And I had no idea who the audience was. You ever try to lie to yourself? Like really convince yourself you're just overthinking? I got pretty good at it. I'd come home late from work, see the extra wine glass in the sink, and tell myself she just wanted a second pour. Or maybe she was watching those wine tutorials again. The ones she never finished. The ones she'd accidentally pause when I walked into the room. I started noticing little things. Her perfume, a new one, strong and sweet, something she used to say gave her headaches. The way her phone would light up at midnight with a low battery banner even though she always used to charge it before bed. The change in music. The gym clothes she suddenly needed to buy, even though she hadn't stepped foot in a gym in months. And then there was her laptop. She never used it much before. Always said she preferred her phone. But now she was on it daily, always working on her freelance stuff, which was code for whatever hobby she used to pretend she cared about. One day it was photography, the next it was copywriting. But I never saw a single invoice. No clients. No emails. Just tabs she'd close whenever I walked by. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband snooping around. That guy always looks pathetic in movies. You know the type. Baggy-eyed. Whispering to friends at bars about how something just feels off, while everyone nods and secretly wonders if he's going crazy. But I wasn't crazy. I was just aware. One night, she said she was going to a girls' night. And I wanted to believe her. I really did. But 5 minutes after she left, I checked the group chat she used to show me. The girls hadn't said a word in weeks. I just sat there in the kitchen, phone in hand, staring at the empty glass she left behind. That's when I realized something. I wasn't trying to prove she was cheating. I was trying to prove she wasn't. And the more I tried, the worse it looked. It happened on a Sunday. One of those weirdly quiet afternoons where time moves like it's underwater. Lauren had left to get groceries, which was a joke in itself. We had a fridge full of untouched kale and oat milk she only bought to feel superior. I watched her pull out of the driveway in a dress I hadn't seen in years. Tight. Red. Strategic. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I already had her location history. That stupid couples app she made us download a year ago, back when she was still trying to prove we were some Instagram-level love story, was still synced to my phone. She probably forgot about it. At first, I didn't even check it. I just sat there at the table, sipping cold coffee and staring at her untouched to-do list on the fridge like it could give me answers. But eventually curiosity won. One tap. The map loaded. And there she was. Not at the grocery store. A hotel. One town over. She'd been there for 34 minutes. I don't even remember standing up. I just know I was suddenly in the car, driving toward that blinking blue dot like it was a finish line. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was numb, like my brain had gone into low power mode just to get me through the moment. When I pulled into the parking lot, I sat there for a few minutes, watching the entrance. I don't know what I expected. Her coming out in slow motion, wind in her hair, hand in hand with some cartoon villain? No. She came out alone. But she wasn't looking around. She wasn't checking her phone. She was adjusting her bra in the reflection of a car window, smoothing her dress, hair freshly tousled like she'd just walked off a movie set. Then she got in her car and drove off like she'd just picked up milk. I waited. 5 minutes later, he walked out. Taller than me. Tan. Too confident. I recognized him. Of course I did. He was her coworker. The one she couldn't stand. The one who had a wife and a newborn. The one she said was such a narcissist. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, heart pounding, wondering how long this had been going on. How many fake fights she'd started just to leave the house. How many times she'd kissed me with his cologne still on her. And the worst part? I didn't even confront her that day. I went home. Because in that moment, I knew something she didn't. I wasn't going to catch her. I was going to beat her. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was hurt, that came later, but because my brain wouldn't stop doing math. Not the numbers kind. The reality kind. Figuring out what was real, what was fake, what I missed, what I let slide. Turns out, there was a lot. Her work events lined up with weekends I'd be on call. The new lingerie I never got to see. That phone call I overheard last month, the one where she laughed like she used to with me. I saw it all now. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I started planning. Step 1 was detachment. No more small talk. No more pretending. I became polite. Distant. Predictable. I smiled when I had to. I agreed with everything. If she said the sky was purple, I said, looks lovely. She relaxed. She thought she'd gotten away with it. Step 2 was information. I didn't confront her. I studied her. I paid attention to her tells. How she acted when she was lying. She got overly affectionate. When she was nervous, she talked about the gym. When she wanted to distract me, she brought up politics. I started tracking her movements. No GPS needed. Just patterns. She was careless because she thought I was clueless. Step 3 was protection. I moved money quietly. Opened a new checking account. Got a P.O. box. Changed the passwords to everything that was mine and mine alone: email, cloud storage, credit monitoring. I even started seeing a lawyer, casually. Just exploring my options. But I wasn't planning a divorce. Not yet. I was planning the kind of exit that would leave a mark. Because here's the thing, it wasn't just the cheating. It was the smirk she wore when she thought I didn't notice. The condescension. The lies stacked so high she couldn't even remember what the truth sounded like. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about control. And for the first time in a long time, I was taking it back. When you stop reacting, cheaters get bold. That was my first big takeaway. Lauren started getting cocky. She'd come home late, toss her heels by the door, and stretch like she just got back from yoga. Never mind the fact she hated yoga. She started dressing up more, even on laundry days. Wore lipstick to the grocery store. Laughed louder at things that weren't funny. She thought she had me wrapped around her finger. The reliable husband. The safe fallback. She had no idea I was watching everything. I bought 2 small cameras, one for the living room, one for the office. Nothing high-tech. Just enough to see who was coming in and out when I wasn't home. I hid the footage on a USB tucked inside a hollowed-out book she'd never read. The Art of War. Seemed fitting. She didn't bring him into the house, though. At least, not yet. But I knew it was coming. So I gave her space to do it. Started working late. Made up a new client I was consulting for. Told her the hours were weird. She barely looked up from her phone. "That's fine," she mumbled, eyes glued to her screen. Probably texting him. Meanwhile, I built my case. I pulled our bank records. Compared dates to her trips. Matched credit card charges with her locations. Found one charge at a hotel she claimed she hated. Found another at a bar she once said was too trashy. Pattern after pattern. Lie after lie. And still, she smiled at me over dinner like we were a normal couple. I started recording our conversations. Not for drama. For protection. If things got ugly. And let's face it, they would. I wanted proof of her double life. Of how calm and collected I was while she was out there, digging her own grave. Then I reached out to someone I hadn't talked to in years. Her cousin. The one she used to complain about for being too nosy. Funny thing about nosy people, they make great allies when you need dirt. Turns out Lauren's boyfriend wasn't just a cheater. He had a reputation. A history. Other women. One of them married. One of them pregnant. And best of all, he had no clue who I was. Yet, that's when I knew. This wasn't just going to be a breakup. This was going to be a wake-up call. It was subtle. I didn't flip the table. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out or leave a dramatic note. That's not how this works. Not when you're trying to win. My first move was something she didn't even notice. I canceled one of our joint credit cards. Just one. Nothing major. The one she barely used. Mostly for her online orders and those mystery charges she claimed were subscriptions. When she called me, pretending to be confused, I told her the bank flagged it for fraud and I'd handle it. She bought it. Hook, line, and smug little smile. Next, I started talking about us again. How we should reconnect. Maybe take a weekend away. Reignite things. She played along, of course. Said she'd love that. Gave me the same rehearsed grin she used on our wedding photos. Told me she'd check her schedule. That same night, I saw her on the camera, pacing the living room, texting like her thumbs were on fire. I didn't need to read the messages. I already knew what they said. He was her real weekend plan. So I kept the act going. Flowers one day. Takeout the next. Told her I was feeling grateful. She ate it up. Even posted a picture of our dinner with some cliché caption like, "Still making it work after all these years." Comments rolled in. Couple goals. "You two are the cutest." I wanted to laugh. She was so busy building the illusion, she didn't realize I was setting the stage. And then came the best part. I asked her if she wanted to plan our little getaway. Pick the hotel, the city, whatever. She lit up. Finally felt like she was in control again. I knew exactly what she'd do. She'd pick somewhere romantic. Somewhere familiar. Somewhere she could sneak in a detour with him. Perfect. Because while she was planning her lie, I was planning my visit to his wife. There's a moment in every revenge plan where it stops feeling clever and starts feeling dangerous. For me, that moment came when I pulled into her lover's neighborhood. Quiet place. Cookie-cutter houses. Wind chimes, trimmed hedges. All that suburban peace that masks chaos behind every front door. His house was beige. Of course it was. The kind of place that screams, "Nothing to see here." I sat in the car, holding the envelope. Inside was everything. Screenshots. Dates. Hotel records. A photo of Lauren kissing him outside a gas station like no one was watching. She looked happy in it. Not fake happy. Not Instagram happy. Genuinely happy. That part hit harder than I expected. I wasn't there to cause a scene. I wasn't going to ring the doorbell and throw accusations like some soap opera character. I just dropped the envelope in the mailbox and drove off. But I couldn't stop thinking about his wife. What would she do when she saw it? Would she scream? Cry? Leave him on the spot? Or worse, would she stay? Would she do what I did for months? Pretend it wasn't happening just to keep her world intact? That haunted me. Back home, Lauren was in the kitchen, humming like she hadn't just upended my life. She asked if I wanted a drink. I said sure. She poured 2 glasses of wine. Hers was full. Mine was half. That felt symbolic. I watched her laugh at something on her phone. Probably texting him. Probably making plans for their next secret meetup. The one I just blew up. She had no idea her world was already starting to crack. I could have confronted her right then, thrown the truth on the table, and watched her squirm. But that would have been mercy. I wanted her to feel what I had felt, the confusion, the panic, the realization that nothing is what it seems. And I wanted her to feel it alone. So I smiled, raised my glass, and toasted to us. She clinked it without hesitation. And I thought, you're going to remember this night for the rest of your life. It started with the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that buzzes under your skin, where the air feels charged and fake smiles feel too heavy to wear. Lauren sensed something. Not all at once, but little by little. She started asking weirdly specific questions. You're home early? Didn't you say you had a meeting today? Why aren't you watching the game? She wasn't concerned. She was paranoid. And when liars get paranoid, they get sloppy. I watched it happen in real time. She started locking her phone, even when she walked from one room to the next. She'd turn down the brightness when she typed, hold the screen close to her chest like she was guarding a state secret. And the more she tried to hide, the more obvious it became. I didn't call her out. I asked gentle, dumb questions like, who are you texting? And everything okay? She'd lie, of course. Instinctively. Effortlessly. But her timing was off. Her stories didn't line up anymore. She said she was at yoga on Tuesday. I'd already checked her location data. She said she was grabbing lunch with Sarah. Sarah posted a photo from Vegas that same day. And every time I caught her in one of these little contradictions, I'd just nod. Like I believed her. Like I was too simple to connect the dots. That was the beauty of it. She still thought she was ahead. She was already panicking, but she didn't know why yet. Then came the late-night phone call. I pretended to be asleep. She whispered into the phone, her voice barely audible. I heard fragments. I don't know what's wrong. He's acting weird. I think he knows. Bingo. The next morning, she was in overdrive. Pancakes. Compliments. Asked if I wanted to go out that weekend. Suddenly, she remembered my favorite band. She hadn't mentioned them in years. That was the final giveaway. Because when guilt takes over, people don't confess, they perform. She was trying to remind me of the version of her I fell in love with. But the cracks were showing. And for the first time, she knew I was watching. It happened on a Thursday. Not some dramatic date like an anniversary or birthday. Just a regular weekday, when the lies finally ran out of places to hide. She came home late. Real late. Hair messy. Lipstick smudged just enough to raise suspicion, but not enough for her to notice. Her heels clicked too confidently, like she'd already rehearsed whatever excuse she was about to give. She walked into the kitchen, set her purse down, and started talking before I even looked up. Fast. Like a defense lawyer. She was stuck in traffic. Then her phone died. Then it was a work thing that ran long. She gave me all 3 explanations in the span of 2 minutes. That's how I knew she was panicking. I didn't say a word. I just nodded, like I always did. Then I stood up, walked past her, and dropped a small black USB drive on the counter. Didn't say what it was. Didn't have to. Her hand froze. I didn't need to look back. I could feel the shift in the room. Like all the oxygen got sucked out. She knew. That tiny piece of plastic, it was the whole story. The hotel footage. The screenshots. The receipts. The timeline. Her boyfriend's wife had already reached out to me that morning, calm, composed, too hurt to even be angry. She confirmed everything. Dates. Messages. Even the time Lauren claimed she was going to a self-care retreat. That was a week in a rented cabin with him. So I stood there, letting silence do what words couldn't. And then she said the one thing I didn't expect. She laughed. It wasn't joy. It wasn't mockery. It was the nervous, unhinged sound of a person who just realized they'd been outplayed. "You were never supposed to find out," she mumbled. That's it. That was her defense. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "It didn't mean anything." Just, "You weren't supposed to catch me." That was the moment the glass shattered. Because in that second, I realized it was never about love, or mistakes, or even lust. It was about power, control, thrill, getting away with it. And I wasn't the man she loved. I was the man she underestimated. So I picked up the USB, slid it back into my pocket, and said nothing. She tried to follow me, but I was already out the door. I didn't leave the house that night. I just needed air. Space. Something that wasn't soaked in her perfume and half-truths. The breaking point wasn't the cheating. It was realizing how little I mattered in her equation. The morning after the USB drop, Lauren was quiet. Not sad. Not sorry. Just calculating. She knew the walls were closing in, but she still thought she could find a crack to slip through. That's what cheaters do. They think if they control the narrative, they still win. She made breakfast like nothing happened. Played the role. But her eyes kept flicking toward me, searching for signs of weakness, a crack in the armor, a hint that she still had a way back in. She didn't. By noon, her boyfriend's wife had started posting. Not rage posts. Just pictures. Screenshots. Quotes from the texts. Quiet nuclear bombs that detonated in comment sections and DMs. She didn't tag Lauren. Didn't have to. People figured it out fast. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't have to. By 2 p.m., Lauren's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. By 3 p.m., her friends were texting her things like, "You need to come clean," and "Did you really think no one would find out?" And by 5 p.m., she was standing in the hallway with her suitcase. No fight. No apology. Just defeat in designer jeans. She asked if I'd needed anything before she left. I said nothing. That silence hit harder than yelling ever could. Because she expected drama. She expected fireworks. She expected me to be the broken one. But I wasn't broken. I was just done. The fallout spread fast. Her reputation? Gone. Friends distanced themselves. Her boss found out. Turns out, workplace affairs don't sit well with HR, especially when you lie about company trips to hide them. And me? I went to the gym. Cleaned the house. Blasted music that didn't remind me of her. I slept like a baby for the first time in weeks. Fallout doesn't just destroy things, it clears space. And in that wreckage, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. The house was too quiet after she left. At first, it was a relief. No more walking on eggshells. No more lies wrapped in kisses. Just silence. Pure and honest. But silence has a way of making you face things you've been avoiding. Like, how long had I been lying to myself? I started replaying our years together, not the highlight reel, but the parts in between. The times she rolled her eyes when I tried to open up. The subtle digs disguised as sarcasm. The way she used affection like a bargaining chip. Withholding when she wanted leverage, pouring it on when she needed cover. I used to call it her quirks. Now I call it what it was, manipulation. She wasn't always cruel. That's what made it confusing. She was good when she wanted to be. Generous, even. But only when it served her. Only when it fit the image she wanted to sell to me, to her friends, to social media. Looking back, I don't think she ever really loved me. I think she loved the version of me that made her feel important. Stable. Admired. The moment I stopped playing the supporting role in her personal movie, she started looking for a new co-star. And I stupidly, naively, just kept showing up on set, hoping the script would change. But here's the thing. Once the credits roll, the illusion ends. Now I see the cracks I ignored. The compromises I made. The way I shrunk myself just to keep things peaceful. I'm not proud of how long it took me to wake up. But I'm proud I finally did. And in that quiet house, with the echo of her absence still bouncing off the walls, I made myself a promise. I'll never let someone make me feel small again. I didn't wake up one day suddenly healed. That's not how it works. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. But slowly, like a light warming up in the cold, something shifted. I started noticing the little things again. The way my coffee tasted when it was actually hot. The quiet joy of taking the long way home. Even the sound of my own breathing. Steady, calm, mine. No more pretending. No more reading between the lines of someone else's behavior. I didn't have to decode passive-aggressive moods or guess which version of her I'd come home to. I was just alone. And weirdly, that started to feel good. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned. Fixed up the garage. Put my hands back on tools instead of stress. Built a bench. Reorganized the shed. Things I used to enjoy before my time was spent managing someone else's chaos. People started noticing the change. Friends said I seemed lighter. I didn't realize how heavy I'd gotten, not in pounds, but in weight. Emotional weight, mental weight, the kind that sinks you so slow you don't even know you're underwater until you finally come up for air. She texted once. Just a short, careful message. Hope you're okay. I didn't respond. Because I am. And that silence? That was me choosing peace. Not revenge. Not closure. Just peace. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was about walking away without looking back. The shift wasn't dramatic. It didn't come with fireworks. It came with stillness. And for the first time in years, I didn't dread what came next. I was curious. Closure's a funny word. People act like it's something someone else is supposed to give you. An apology. An explanation. A final conversation where everything suddenly makes sense. That's not how it went down. There was no apology from her. No moment of honesty. Just a trail of excuses and one final text that said, I never meant to hurt you. As if intent erases impact. Truth is, she did mean to hurt me. Not directly, maybe. But when someone lies to you over and over, they've made a choice. They're okay with your pain, as long as they get what they want. That's not an accident. That's strategy. I didn't answer her message. Didn't need to. I found my closure in the quiet stuff. The day I threw away the last picture of us. The moment I unsubscribed from the email list for the couple's resort she once begged me to take her to. The night I looked at our old wedding album and didn't feel anything. Not hate. Not longing. Just nothing. I boxed up her leftovers. The clothes she didn't grab. The perfume bottle in the bathroom. The charger she swore wasn't hers. All of it. Taped it shut. Dropped it off at her sister's without a word. I didn't even wait for the door to open. I just drove off. That was closure. Not because it felt powerful, but because it felt like release. Like cutting the rope on something I'd been dragging for way too long. And in that moment, I finally felt light again. Not fixed. Not healed. Just unchained. So here I am. Sitting on my back porch, drink in hand, sun going down, and for once, no lies waiting for me inside. You'd think after everything, the betrayal, the manipulation, the emotional whiplash, I'd be angry, bitter, jaded, and maybe I was. But now, I'm just done with it. Done carrying weight that doesn't belong to me. Done trying to understand someone who didn't even care enough to be honest. Done blaming myself for not seeing it sooner. Here's the bottom line. She cheated. She lied. She disrespected everything we built together and did it with a smirk. She chose someone else. Repeatedly, quietly, boldly, and thought I'd never find out. Or worse, that I wouldn't do anything when I did. She underestimated me. But the real kicker? I underestimated myself. I thought I couldn't live without her. That she was the center of my world. Turns out, she was just blocking the view. What bonded us before? Honestly, I can't even remember anymore. Maybe it was youth. Familiarity. Maybe we mistook comfort for compatibility. What we lost, I guess we never really had it. So now what? I'm not rushing to fall in love again. Not looking for the next person to fill the space she left behind. I'm just learning how to enjoy my own company. Finding peace in the things she used to roll her eyes at. My playlists, my slow mornings, my ridiculous obsession with old baseball cards. I've still got scars. I don't pretend otherwise. But they don't sting the way they used to. They're just there. Quiet reminders of who I was. And who I'm not anymore. I'm not the guy she walked all over. I'm the guy who stood up, cleaned up the mess, and kept walking. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere down the road, I'll find someone who actually sees me. But until then, I'm good. I'm free. And that, my friend, is enough.